Welcome again to our series of questions that Jesus asked. Our question today comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 3 and verse 4. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm? To give our question its context, we'll be reading verses 1 through 6 of Mark, chapter 3. Again he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to them, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. I like a thesaurus. No, a thesaurus is not a scary man-eating dinosaur. It's a dictionary of synonyms and antonyms. It helps in expressing ideas. The comedian Steve Martin once said, "Some people have a way with words, and other people, not have way." I'm the second one. I tell people, math ain't never been my strong point. Grammar are. I hope they get the point that I'm not a grammar scholar. I say all that to tell you that I sometimes look up a word that I have an idea of the meaning, but a synonym helps cement the meaning in my mind. In this case, the word for hard-hearted. I looked it up and found words like heartless, brutish, callous, cold-blooded, indifferent, obdurate, pitiless, unfeeling. Then I looked up the word for stubbornness. I found the words inflexibility, obstinacy, contumacy, mullishness, obduracy, pertinacity, and pigheadedness. And finally, I looked up the word obstinate. I found words like adamant, and dogmatic, headstrong, recalcitrant, steadfast, contumacious, indomitable, obdurate, unalterable. In each of these words, I sought a synonym for. I found the word obdurate, or a form of it. I looked it up and found it was an adjective. It means unmoved by persuasion, pit, or tender feelings. Stubborn, unyielding, stubbornly resistant to moral influence, persistently impenitent. Wow. Last week I couldn't spell obdurate, and this week I think I are one. Well, I hope to find out if that's true or not. Our account today is found in all three of the synoptic gospels. Synoptic means seen together, or seeing all together. The prefix syn means together, and optic means to see. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are generally seen as recording the events of Jesus' life and ministry, similarly, with a few differences that can be explained as a difference of the author's perspective without compromising the truthfulness of the narrative. More than likely, this account takes place in Capernaum, the now home of Jesus, having relocated from his boyhood home of Nazareth after his ministry began. Jesus' reputation begins to precede him as those in the synagogue are on the lookout for what he might do. In particular, watching to see if Jesus would heal on the Sabbath, which in their minds is a work and a definite no-no. Here's the problem. According to Jewish tradition of the rabbis, while it is always wrong to do harm, it is equally wrong to have the opportunity to do good and not to do it. The quandary now is precisely what Jesus puts before them in the form of a question. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm? To save life or to kill it? In verse 4. Jesus could have chosen to lecture them on the merits of doing good and telling them their logic was all wrong. However, the master teacher knows the right approach. He let them come to their own conclusion. He let them discover the truth on their own. Let them reason within. The perfect vehicle to deliver such a proposition is the question, non-threatening and simple. In Matthew's gospel, it is the people in the synagogue who ask the question, not Jesus. It is quite likely that Jesus simply repeats the question back to the people, that they might consider it as well here in Mark's account. The intent of the scribes and Pharisees, for Luke identifies those to whom Jesus addresses, is not to learn, it's not to discover, it's not to solve this mystery once and for all. Their sole intent is to accuse Jesus of breaking the Sabbath. They were unable to see the truth in this situation. Why? Because of their obduracy of heart. I can hardly wait until the new thesaurus version comes out that has really big words in it. But really, that's too big and confusing of a word, don't you think? Mark simply tells us that Jesus looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart in verse 5. This is so simple, Jesus might have thought. Why can't they understand this? He wasn't angry because this teaching was too hard or beyond their ability and scope to comprehend. Their only premise for not getting this is their hardness of heart, their stubbornness, their adamant, dogmatic, headstrong, recalcitrant, steadfast, contumacious, indomitable, obdurate, unalterable hardness of heart. That hardness of heart led them even further down the road to self-destruction. The stubborn heart is nearly impossible to reach. Nearly, but not completely. They were sure that what they believed was right. But so too was another Pharisee. He was sure and confident and bent on destroying this sect called the Way. Here's how he described his life as a Pharisee. I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city, educated at the feet of Gamaliel, according to the strict manner of the law of our fathers, being zealous for God as all of you are this day. I persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering to prison both men and women, as the high priest and the whole council of elders can bear me witness. From them I received letters to the brothers, and I journeyed toward Damascus to take those also who were there and bring them in bonds to Jerusalem to be punished. What changed this Pharisee's mind? Well, as we continue in Acts chapter 22, beginning in verse 6, we're about to see. He continues, as I was on my way and drew near Damascus, about noon a great light from heaven suddenly shone around me. And I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And I answered, Who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. Now those who were with me saw the light, but did not understand the voice of the one who was speaking to me. And I said, What shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, Rise and go into Damascus, and there you will be told all that is appointed for you to do. The rest, they say, is history. Oh, one more thing about this encounter with Saul of Tarsus. Did you notice the first words spoken to Saul by Jesus? That's right. It was a question. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Would that a booming voice, would that sound coming from heaven above be enough to soften the hardness of heart in us. Wouldn't it be just as easy and far less painful to examine ourselves in honesty to find out if our hearts are hardened? Unfortunately, that's not really the way that it happens most of the time. And I wonder if I can be that honest with myself. How about you? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and look at another of the questions that Jesus asked.